Hi everyone, my name is Apuraj Garikapati. Welcome to my YouTube channel Amazing Abhai.
Don't just hear the story, enter it.
In a fury, it declares that he hopes they never meet again. Without another word, he leaves. Back at the mansion, our guide discusses the encounter with the Marquis, who explains that Crayon is destined to be the future king, as the current ruler is unlikely to survive the year due to illness. He reveals that he once served as Crayon's martial arts instructor and attempted to correct his temper, but a person's nature cannot be changed. Additionally, the Joseph family, backed by the nobility, might try to keep him in check since Count Joseph's daughter recently became the crown princess. Curious, he asks why Joseph would marry his daughter to Crayon despite knowing his character. The Marquis explains that nobles often betray their own blood for their family's survival, but he refuses to do the same. His daughter is not suited for such a harsh environment, and he cannot send her into it. Later, Kalli orders began to prepare the wagon. As he turns, he spots Nashia. Annoyed, he mutters that he had hoped never to see her again. She approaches and apologizes for her past mistake. Dismissing it, he states that Heat is leaving. She grabs his arm, asking why Heat is being so cold and requests a moment of his time. Remembering how aggressive he had been last time, he hesitates. Nashia hands him a talisman, wishing him luck in the tournament. She shares that she has been weak since childhood and tried many remedies, but her natural constitution never improved. Despite that, she believes she is still alive because of her faith in superstitions. He questions whether the talisman is part of that superstition, stating that he does not believe in such things. She insists that it holds meaning for her and asks him to accept it as her apology, promising not to bother him again. Accepting it reluctantly, he wears the talisman, thinking that this will be the last time he interacts with her. She apologizes once more, but inside she is pleased. The next morning, Began informs Kalli that the schedule for the main tournament has been released. His match is set for the following day. Hearing his opponent's name, Garrett, he asks if he is a well-known fist fighter, as he has never heard of him. Began inquires about him from the butler, who reveals that Garrett is a former mercenary who recently switched to pugilism. Began concludes that he is likely motivated by money. Aware that Garrett reached the main round, he acknowledges that he must have some skill. Just then, an unsettling feeling washes over our guy. He mentions to Began that his chest is itching. When asked about the necklace, he casually states that Lady Nashia gave it to him, and that he intends to throw it away. Began asks for it instead, inspecting the talisman and wondering why someone with such wealth would carry something like this. At the opening ceremony of the pugilism tournament's main event, the king arrives to give a speech. However, his words are barely audible, leading the audience to whisper about his frail condition. Observing him, Kalli assumes that he won't live much longer. The speech concludes, and next, Crown Prince Crayon steps forward, accompanied by the princess. Arrogantly, he declares the tournament open. The audience chants, "Long live the Crown Prince." Suddenly, an unexpected announcement is made. A prisoner execution tournament will take place before the actual matches. This causes confusion among the spectators. The fist-fighting participants are ordered to return to the waiting room immediately. Kalli, puzzled, asks about this event. Someone explains that the Crown Prince made the decision impulsively the previous day, stating that blood needed to be spilled to heighten the atmosphere. It is dangerous, so Kalli is advised to go to the waiting room quickly. As the cages open, 3 lions are released. The prisoners, terrified and pleading for their lives, are brutally attacked. Blood spills onto the ground as the Crown Prince and the audience revel in the spectacle. Watching this, the Marquis mutters in disgust. Calling Crayon a scoundrel, Kalli observes the scene with distaste, while realizing that in this world, death is treated casually. While he doesn't wish to impose Earth's moral standards, he finds this cruelty beyond comprehension. He concludes that only insane people live here. Meanwhile, Nasha and Blair are in the audience. Blair asks if she really saw Kalli wearing the necklace, to which Nasha confirms. Blair reassures her, explaining that it doesn't matter if he took it off. The moment it was around his neck, a fine needle pricked him, injecting poison. Even if he later feels discomfort and removes it, it is already too late. Without an antidote, his body will gradually weaken, leading to death within a few days. Just like being cursed. As the next match is announced, Kalli steps into the ring with a smile. Seeing him, Nasha notices that he has removed the necklace. Meanwhile, Blair remains unfazed. Kalli's opponent, Gerard, greets him, saying that he has heard a lot about him and does not need to use honorifics. Kalli immediately points out that Gerard is not originally a pugilist. Gerard confirms this, saying that as a mercenary, he does whatever is required for money, whether it be wielding a sword or throwing punches. As they prepare to fight, our guy advises Gerard to surrender if he values his life or doesn't want to end up disabled. However, he notices that Gerard has taken a relaxed stance like he is hiding something. Realizing this, Kalli remains cautious. Our guy initiates an attack, but Gerard dodges effortlessly. Smirking, he comments that pugilists are indeed different. Kalli taunts him, asking if that means he is a fake pugilist. However, he soon realizes that Gerard is deliberately avoiding direct combat. While he may not be well versed in pugilism, his skill is undeniable. Gerard reveals that while he has only been practicing pugilism for 2 months, he has been a mercenary for 20 years. This revelation shocks Kalli. He understands that both mercenaries and fistfighters have short careers, and only the extremely skilled or lucky survive for decades. In this case, Gerard is clearly among the skilled. Physically, our guy is superior in fist fighting techniques. However, Gerard holds decades of combat experience, which allows him to read his opponent's movements and predict attacks with remarkable foresight. Gerard makes the first move while throwing a punch. Kalli attempts to dodge, but fails and takes a hit. He quickly realizes that the punch came from an awkward angle, making it difficult to avoid. He retaliates with a punch of his own, but Gerard effortlessly evades. Impressed, Kalli remarks that Gerard is highly intelligent in battle. While Kalli has fought countless powerful opponents, his edge has always come from his previous life's boxing experience and strategic thinking. However, this time, he faces a mercenary whose psychological edge and adaptability surpass even his own. This is the first time that Kalli feels his mental superiority being challenged. Determined to end the fight quickly, Kalli plans to land a single decisive hit. However, Gerard sees through his intentions and warns him not to be overconfident before throwing another punch. Our guy notices something strange, that Gerard's attacks don't follow a normal rhythm. His left and right punches feel completely unpredictable. Basically, orthodox and southpaw are the primary techniques in fighting. In the orthodox stance, the right hand stays at the back while the left hand leads. In contrast, the southpaw stance places the right hand forward and the left at the back. Before we move ahead, please take a second to like on this video. A like tells me that you enjoyed this topic. Your support helps Amazing Up grow naturally. Orthodox is a natural choice for most right-handed boxers, as it provides an advantage when facing left-handed opponents. However, the footwork in both stances often creates challenges with timing and defense. Right-handed boxers frequently encounter southpaw fighters while making the experience unique and demanding. The ability to switch seamlessly between both stances is a valuable skill. Gerard and Kalli face off while both ready to compete. Kalli quickly grasps his opponent's style while realizing he can utilize both hands with ease. Gerard, on the other hand, also notices Kalli's awareness, but wonders how much of an edge that knowledge gives him. After all, adapting to a completely different boxing style in such a short time is nearly impossible, even for a trained fighter. Our boy realizes that with his sharp perception, he can easily evade the punches coming his way. Deep inside, he knows he has faced easier opponents before, and he now has the courage to take on this challenge as well. Gerard is stunned to see Kalli standing still, a stark contrast to his usual constant movement. It almost feels unnatural, as if some unseen force has rooted him in place. Gerard begins to suspect that something has changed. He recalls how, when Kalli first arrived in this world, he fought as an evasive boxer, relying on agility to avoid hits. But over time, as he adapted to the fist-fighting style here, Kalli transformed into a fighter who sacrificed movement for raw power. Now, it's clear that he has shifted once again while evolving into a relentless swarmer. This swarmer style allows Kalli to unleash hard hits and aggressive forward punches while overwhelming his opponent. Gerard can't help but be impressed by how much Kalli has changed. Fully embracing his new style, Kalli fights with unyielding aggression while embodying the very essence of a swarmer. In his mind, Kalli knows he has unraveled every trick and strategy his opponent relies on. Confident and determined, He pushes forward, ready to prove his dominance. The opponent looks furious and his frustration evident in his every move. Suddenly, Kalli delivers a massive punch while forcing Geralt to realize the full extent of his power. But just as quickly as Kalli advances, he halts in the middle of the fight, throwing his opponent off guard. In that moment of stillness, Kalli unleashes a devastating punch that lands squarely on Geralt's jaw. The impact is undeniable, and Geralt feels the shift in Kalli's approach. He senses this isn't the same fighter he faced before, and Kalli's unpredictability is becoming his greatest weapon. Geralt knows that if he loses focus for even a second, Kalli's evolving patterns will guarantee his defeat. As the fight intensifies, Geralt's mind races while trying to predict Kalli's next move. He wonders what distance Kalli will strike from, and how he can counter such a versatile opponent. The crowd watches in awe while captivated by the fierce energy and strategy unfolding before them. Even the Marquis, seated high above, is enthralled by the sheer brilliance of his ever-changing style. The guards quickly realize that Kalli is positioning himself at mid-range while preparing to spin around them and dismantle their defenses. They can sense his intent to break through with speed and precision while knowing their barriers won't hold for long. Geralt, meanwhile, begins to doubt that Kalli can secure victory with ordinary fists. He believes that Kalli will need to adapt his style to win. Without hesitation, Geralt delivers a massive punch, following it with a flurry of relentless blows, each one fueled by his sheer strength. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoes through the arena. Geralt's hand falters, and Kalli steps back with a smirk while asking if he has heard the unmistakable sound of bone cracking. Geralt's expression shifts, but before Kalli can deliver another punishing strike, he shocks everyone by surrendering. Kalli stands frozen for a moment while stunned by his opponent's unexpected submission. Opponent confesses while his voice trembling that he felt his life was at stake and could not endure further punishment. The crowd erupts in protest while shouting for the fight to continue until the very end. The air buzzes with tension as Kalli glances toward the roaring audience, his victory tinged with disbelief and defiance. The crowd clamors for Kalli to finish his opponent and their voices demanding blood. Kalli, however, calmly tells his opponent that the fight cannot end here, not with the people and even the crown prince wanting a decisive conclusion. He gestures toward the prince's cold, expectant demeanor while making it clear that surrender alone will not satisfy anyone. The opponent had initially viewed pugilism as little more than a sport, but Kalli's words shake him. He explains that to appease the restless audience, he must make the defeat dramatic. He instructs his opponent to scream while claiming his hand is broken, and he dislocates his shoulder instead. The plan unfolds quickly, and with a calculated move, Kalli dislocates his opponent's shoulder. The crowd erupts and cheers, thrilled by the spectacle. The defeated man collapses to the ground, writhing in pain, before being carried off on a stretcher. Kalli remains standing in the ring, victorious, soaking in the roaring approval of the audience. Geralt, however, lies in silence, his mind fixated on the fight and the humiliation of defeat. He vows silently to repay this lost one day while determined to face Baron Kalli just again. Elsewhere, a noble woman turns to Blair while questioning whether Kalli is really cursed, for he fights with an almost otherworldly brilliance. Meanwhile, the doctor observes the scene, his thoughts clouded with guilt. He knows he had poisoned Kalli before the match, yet Kalli performed with extraordinary vitality and skill, defying the odds. The doctor resolves to start using stronger drugs, wondering how long he can deceive Kalli with painkillers before the truth becomes evident. The lady remains clueless about the growing conspiracy. Began, on the other hand, notices a collection of gifts and grows curious about their intended recipient. When he questions the butler, the man nods silently. Moments later, Began discovers a letter among the items and wonders if it might be from Count Joseph. Later, Kalli asks about the letter from Baron Joseph, to which Began replies that the Baron wishes to reconcile and put an end to their misunderstandings. However, our dude remains unmoved, unwilling to accept such a resolution. Sensing his hesitation, Began mentions that Baron Joseph shares a strong connection with Marquess Ealdrin. He further explains that Joseph will treat Kalli with respect, not out of kindness, but because making an enemy of the Marquess would be unwise. Still, Kalli remains skeptical. When our boy instructs Began to accompany him, Began refuses while stating that Count Joseph will not welcome him. Kalli simply shrugs while remarking that if Joseph truly disliked them, He should not have requested reconciliation in the first place. If things go poorly, they will simply be thrown out of the palace. But it was not Kalli who sought this meeting in the first place. The next day, in front of the Boromal estate, Warren Joseph waits impatiently. He stands near the carriage, clearly irritated at having to pick up a mere slave fighter. Just as his frustration peaks, Kalli finally appears and casually asks if he is late. Without waiting for a response, he offers a brief apology while explaining that he had been busy elsewhere. Warren barely hides his disgust but simply gestures for Kalli to enter the carriage. Before stepping inside, Kalli states that Began will be accompanying him. Warren's expression shifts to surprise, but before he can object, Kalli firmly repeats himself. Began is coming. With a smirk, he adds that in this world, not only traitors, but also those who harm women can walk around with confidence. The remark strikes a nerve. Annoyed, Warren slams the carriage door shut with unnecessary force while his irritation evident in the sharp echo that follows. Began quickly realizes that Warren's frustration has only worsened, but Kalli remains indifferent. With a smirk, he remarks that he cannot be kind to someone who brings back bad memories. Suddenly, a sharp pain shoots through Kalli's head while making him wince. Began notices immediately and asks if he's alright. Kalli dismisses his concern while calling it just a migraine. But when Began offers to call a physician, Kalli hesitates before admitting that the pain is worsening. He worries it might affect him in the second round of the tournament, yet he refuses to show any sign of weakness now. The carriage soon arrives at the palace and they step out to be greeted by Count Joseph. With a polite but measured tone, the Count invites them inside for dinner. As they take their seats at the grand dining table, Kalli decides to stir trouble. Began watches in shock as Kalli eats in the most improper manner possible, devouring his food like a starving man, his table manners non-existent. His actions are deliberate while testing Count Joseph's patience. Meanwhile, Joseph observes him carefully, wondering if Kalli would dare display such behavior in front of Marquis Eldrin as well. Warren, unable to tolerate the disrespect, suddenly stands from his chair while demanding that Kalli compose himself and show proper etiquette. Feigning innocence, Kalli apologizes. Before we move ahead, please take a second to share on this video. Sharing helps this video reach friends who may also enjoy anime, gaming, travel, cricket, chess, career basics, or personal stories. Your support helps Amazing Abhai grow naturally. While claiming that he is merely a man of humble origins, before Warren can press further, Count Joseph intervenes while instructing his son not to be rude and to treat their guest with respect. Turning to Kalli, the Count Joseph finally addresses the reason for their meeting. With a composed voice, he states that they need to resolve their misunderstandings. Hearing this, Kelly's expression darkens. Fury flashes in his eyes as he processes the word misunderstandings. The Count presses on while suggesting they settle their resentment and even offering compensation if Kalli desires something in return. At that, Ergai scoffs. With an icy tone, he replies that his wife once told him never to accept gifts from strangers. Count Joseph's patience begins to wane. Irritation creeps into his expression and his voice sharpens as he declares Kalli's behavior intolerable. But before he can say more, his anger reaching its peak, suddenly hurls his glass of wine across the table. The room falls into stunned silence. Warren Joseph's face twists with rage. But before he can act, Kalli coldly reminds Count Joseph of everything he has done. With a voice filled with contempt, Kalli declares that he barely survived because of the Count's first son. Kalli's voice drips with anger as he speaks. He reminds Count Joseph that he was sentenced to death simply for helping someone who had been humiliated by his eldest son. That so-called misunderstanding had cost him everything. He was thrown into a fight against a monstrous ogre and forced to survive with his legs barely functional from severe injuries. The mere memory of it fuels his rage. Fixing his cold gaze on the Count Joseph, Kalli demands to know what right he has to speak of misunderstandings. He is no fool, and he refuses to pretend otherwise. Sensing the tension rising, Began steps in while urging Kalli to calm down. Count Joseph, while maintaining his composed demeanor, attempts once more to ease the situation. He suggests that they continue on good terms while stating that it would be beneficial for the ageist family. With measured patience, the Count Joseph gives Kalli one final chance. He asks whether he truly desires a relationship without any reconciliation, reminding him that he too is a noble of the empire He insists that Kalli should act accordingly. At that moment, something shifts in Kalli's mind. He realizes that whether he likes it or not, reconciliation may be necessary, but that doesn't mean he will make it easy. With a smirk, he turns to Warren Joseph and calmly demands his leg. In return, silence falls over the room. Warren's face pales while his expression frozen in shock. Warren Joseph is left speechless while his face draining of color as Kalli demands his leg. Panic sets in as Kalli grabs a heavy hammer and slowly steps toward him. Desperate, Warren pleads for mercy, his voice shaking as he begs his father for help. But there is no escape. He is already tied up while lying helpless on the ground. Count Joseph, while watching with a cold expression, tells his son to accept his fate for the sake of their family. He reminds Warren that this sacrifice will strengthen their ties with the Marquise and the Crown Princess. If enduring this pain means securing their family's future, then so be it. Kalli smirks while playing along with the act. He lifts the hammer high above his head while letting the tension build. Warren flinches while his breath hitching as Kalli warns him to brace himself. With a swift motion, Kalli swings the hammer down with full force. A deafening crack echoes through the hall. Warren screams while convinced his leg has been shattered. But as the dust settles, he realizes something strange, that his leg is untouched. Instead, the floor beneath him is cracked and broken. He stares in disbelief. His body trembles as Kalli looks down at him with cold amusement. Then, turning to Count Joseph, Kalli asks if he was truly willing to go through with this punishment. With a deep sigh, Count Joseph nods. He takes this as a sign that they should put their past conflicts behind them. Finally, Kalli agrees. And with that, the long-standing feud is settled. Count Joseph thanks him, though the atmosphere remains tense. Kalli then crouches beside Warren and warns him never to appear before him again, because next time he won't hold back. Warren's body stiffens with fear and his terror evident in his wide eyes. With their business concluded, Kalli and Begin leave the palace. As they walk away, Begin glances at him while, still shaken, he admits that for a moment, he truly believed Kalli would break Warren's leg. Kalli simply shrugs while replying that it wasn't worth the trouble. There was no real gain in crippling him, so he didn't bother. Back at the palace, Count Joseph orders his servants to stay quiet and see them off without a word. By the next day, rumors spread like wildfire, which was the news of the reconciliation between the Joseph and Adjust families reaches every corner of the city. At the Aldrin mansion, Blair approaches the princess while inquiring about her condition. She responds that she is feeling better, but still a bit unwell. Hearing this, the spellcaster exhales in relief while assuming that the strong painkillers she took are working. At least for now, she seems to be recovering. Meanwhile, her thoughts drift elsewhere toward Kalli. She wonders if he truly is just a fist fighter or something more, sensing her concern. Blair beside her smiles while attributing her recovery to her own strong spirit. She is grateful for the words and admits that before meeting him, she was always in pain. But now, things have changed and her condition has improved significantly. At that he thanks her while insisting that her support made all the difference. Yet as he watches her, his mind drifts to a different thought. Had Kalli and the princess been left alone, he is certain they would have killed each other by now. He smirks at the idea while amused by their fiery tempers. But more importantly, he envisions the fortune awaiting him once this matter is finally resolved. With a deep breath, he realizes that this long, tiresome ordeal is finally coming to an end. A few days later, at the Bourlemont mansion, Bourlemont searches for Kalli while suggesting they resume training. It has been days since their last session, and he insists they can't afford to slack off. He knocks on the door, but there is no response. Growing concerned, he peeks through the window and what he sees shocks him. Kalli is sprawled on the floor while his body drenched in sweat. His breathing is heavy and his muscles tense with exhaustion. Alarmed, Begin immediately calls for a doctor. When the doctor arrives and examines him, his expression turns grim. He reveals that Kalli's body is covered in wounds, the clear toll of a life spent as a pugilist. He explains that the intense strain on his body is the cause of his condition. To ease his suffering, the doctor prescribes painkillers. But as Kalli listens, his mind races with unease. He knows the painkillers of this world carry severe side effects. Memories surface of 3 years ago. A doctor had once given him a similar medication. At the time, he had been warned to take only one at a time. When he had asked if it would make him drowsy, the doctor had simply told him it would bring relief. but might also cause hallucinations. Now, staring at the new prescription in his hands, Kalli's frustration deepens. Kalli realizes that despite his strength, he lacks the medical knowledge of trained doctors. There's little he can do about his condition except endure it. Began, however, is more concerned. He reminds Kalli that the second round of the tournament is tomorrow and asks what their plan is now, but Kalli remains unfazed. His fists are still strong, that's all that matters. The next day arrives and the ground is packed with spectators. The energy in the air is electric as the second round begins. Kalli sits in quiet contemplation. He knows he must fight, but if things take a serious turn while returning to the Empire will be impossible. The journey is too far and the only divine doctor which is not a solution for now. He clenches his fists while pushing the thought aside. A loud call echoes through the arena. While summoning, Kalli adjusts to the ring. He steps forward, his mind made up. A prolonged battle would be dangerous in his current state. There's only one solution, that he must end this fight immediately. Among the crowd, Blair watches Kalli closely. He marvels at how someone with such a battered body still has the will to fight. But in his mind, he doubts Kalli will last long. The match begins and Kalli's opponent confidently steps forward. He boasts about his mastery of the Wistery style while declaring that he won't be defeated today. Kalli sighs. The man talks too much. The drum sounds while signaling the start of the battle. Both fighters face each other and their gaze is locked. At first the opponent underestimates Kalli's movements. He assumes his punches are slow until in a flash, Kalli lands a devastating blow straight to his mouth. Blood sprays from the opponent's lips as he stumbles back in shock. Kalli smirks. He explains that making unnecessary noise during movement only makes it easier for the enemy to track his actions. Unlike his opponent, Kalli moves in silence. Before the man can react, our dude delivers another powerful strike. The force knocks him straight to the ground. The crowd erupts in cheers. A single hit, and the fight is over. Spectators stare in astonishment while struggling to believe what they've just witnessed. Even Blair, who was the one who doubted Kalli's endurance, is left totally stupefied. The crowd erupts while chanting Kalli's name, their voices filling the arena. Among them, Blair watches in disbelief, struggling to comprehend the strength Kalli displays. With such a fragile body, participating in the match itself seems impossible. Yet securing victory makes the situation even more suspicious. Uncertainty clouds his mind as he questions his next move. Meanwhile, Nash's condition worsens, dizziness taking hold of her. Observing her state, the man, before we move ahead, please take a second to like on this video. A like tells me that you enjoyed this topic. Your support helps Amazing Up grow naturally. Assures himself that he will cast another spell soon. However, a sinking realization settles within him that only one chance remains. On the other side, our boy's condition continues to deteriorate. After the fight, lying motionless in his bed, his breathing is slow and heavy. Began and the others gather around, their expressions grim. The doctors have exhausted all possible treatments, leaving them helpless. Next moment, the door creaks open, and a servant enters, addressing Lord Began with urgency. A woman has arrived and is requesting to meet Kalli. Moments later, she steps forward, her presence commanding attention. She introduces herself as a gypsy, instantly raising Began's suspicions. He questions whether she intends to use magic for healing. His skepticism deepens as he demands to know how she has learned of Kalli's condition. She reveals that she has seen it with her own eyes. Her knowledge confirms what she fears. A curse has been placed upon the Baron. The weight of her words settles over the room as she explains that if the spell remains unbroken, Kalli has only 3 days left to live. Therefore, she needs to meet him immediately. Began hesitates, uncertain of her true intentions. Yet with no alternatives left, he allows her inside. As she steps closer, she introduces herself as Snorin. Began decides to test the woman's abilities, asking her to locate Kalli without guidance. Without hesitation, she moves to the door and pushes it open, revealing the Baron lying unconscious on the bed. A wave of shock and suspicion washes over Began as he questions whether she is using magic to navigate so effortlessly. As she steps closer to Kalli, she suddenly pulls out a knife, which left Began's alarmed, unsure of her intentions. Before he can react, she assures him that she means no harm. Her only intention is to examine Kalli's blood as she makes a small incision on Kalli's hand. As soon as she touches Kalli's blood, the blood evaporates into thin air. She explains that her suspicion is correct. This is the same poison gypsies use for self-defense when facing danger. Bigan stands frozen, absorbing the revelation. She explains that due to Kalli's numerous wounds, determining the exact point of injection is nearly impossible. There is even the possibility that the poison has been ingested rather than injected. At that, Bigan demands a solution. The gypsy calmly states that an antidote can be prepared, though it will take time to take effect. Without hesitation, she instructs him to gather the necessary ingredients. Meanwhile, Kalli drifts into a dream where he finds himself suspended in the air, unable to summon any energy in his body. A dizzying sensation overtakes him as memories from his past life flash before his eyes. He remembers the torment he endured, the beating he received in a fight, and the moment he perished. His previous life unravels and he realizes it was merely a dream. He recalls that, despite his strength back then, his mentality had been non-existent. Now in this moment, it feels like the end of his life. The dream continues and once again, people are attacking him in anger. His body, while fragile and weak, cannot defend itself. He remembers how others despised him while hitting him and wishing for his death. Despite it all, he held on to the desire to become stronger, understanding that even the discarded have their value. With a sudden realization, Kalli understands what must be done. He is now Bear and Kalli a guest, the strongest in the world. He comprehends that he is not dead and still has a long journey ahead. Kalli wakes from the dream and anxiety, clouding his thoughts. Bigan and the gypsy are present while holding the antidote ingredients. In a flurry of emotion, Bigan embraces him tightly, tears streaming as he confesses that he feared Kalli was gone. Kalli, though disturbed by Bigan's distress, gently urges him to release him. He then turns to the gypsy while seeking answers. The gypsy advises him to rest while promising to explain later. At that moment, Blair appears while gripping the gypsy by the arm with a knife. He commands Kalli and Bigan to stay still. The gypsy, alarmed, watches the knife in his hand, her worry palpable. The man curses Kalli while his words laced with venom. As Blair orders Bigan and Kalli to remain still, the antidote slips from their hands and falls to the ground. Bigan demands to know who the man is and how he managed to infiltrate the mansion. Blair reveals that all the guards are now asleep and he believes the others should be unconscious by now. He begins to wonder if the gypsy has tricked them. The gypsy questions the man while asking if he is the one who poisoned our boxer. The man silences her and she shifts into her magical mode. She sees a girl with dark brown hair and a pale face in her vision. Bigan recognizes the girl and asks if it is Nashia Eldrin. The man grows impatient and orders the gypsy to be quiet. Kalli, while deep in thought, connects the dots. Since wearing the necklace, he has been plagued by a persistent headache. He confronts the man while asking if Nashia is working with him. The man dismisses it while stating that it no longer matters as Kalli's life is near its end. Kalli warns the man that he will beat him to death and then take him to Nashia. The man, however, finds Kalli's threat laughable. Here's a poisoned man, barely clinging to life, who is threatening him. The Blair watches Kalli's fragile body and pale face and was unable to take the threat seriously. He wonders why the gypsy hasn't administered the antidote yet. Suspicion creeps in as he observes Kalli's confident eyes while wondering if this person on the brink of death truly poses any threat. Kalli and Bigan both land punches on the man's face. He considers using magic to make them sleep, but the punches keep coming. Suddenly, he releases the gypsy and collapses to the ground. Kalli, while impressed by Bigan's strength and fists fighting, praises him. Later, he then drinks the antidote and turns to the gypsy while asking why she is here. She explains that she had another vision in which she saw his lifeline nearing its end. Grateful, Kalli thanks her and asks why the man tried to kill him. She reveals that she saw a voodoo doll in her reading, along with Nashia, who appeared very weak. She further explains that the man tricked Nashia Eldrin into using dark magic to exchange her life for Kalli's. She suspects this may not be the first time he's done such a thing. Kalli then instructs Bigan to ready the carriage because they are going to see Nashia. They head to the Marquise's kingdom, where the guards stop them while questioning why they have arrived so early. Kalli shows them the necklace and they allow him and his companions to enter. Inside, Marquise Eldrin is present and surprised to see our guy. He asks that if it's true that his daughter has dabbled in dark magic and killed someone, Kalli suggests that the Marquise ask his daughter for the truth himself. The Marquise enters Nashia's room while asking if she is awake, but his guard informs him that she is tired and requested not to be disturbed. Furious, Kalli kicks open the door. They find the room in disarray and Nashia has already left the palace. In Ra, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to Amazing Apai. Subscribing makes sure you do not miss the next video, and it gives me motivation to keep improving the quality of every upload. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one.